In the movie Groundhog Day, Bill Murray plays a weatherman named Phil. Self-centered, bitter, and sarcastic, Phil is not a happy man, and he tends to make other people's lives more difficult. One day, Phil has to go to a little town to cover a Groundhog Day festival, and the next day he wakes up and it is still Groundhog Day. The next day, the same thing happens. He has to live the same day, Groundhog Day, again and again. Every morning he wakes up, he's in the same place on the same day, for weeks, months, years. Phil feels trapped. And in his anger, his first reaction is to try to take selfish advantage of the situation. He steals money, drives recklessly, and tricks women into having sex with him. Even when he gets locked up in jail, the next morning he wakes up back in his bed and nobody knows anything about what happened the day before. It's like it never happened to anyone but him. So he can do whatever he wants without suffering any consequences. So he does. But this doesn't make him happy. All the while, Phil talks to Rita, his producer, every day. It slowly dawns on him that he loves her. Of course, she only knows him as the egocentric jerk he has been so far, so he is frustrated. He sees her and talks to her every day, but from her point of view, up until yesterday, he has proven himself to be a pretentious, conceited narcissist. At first, he tries to be phony, learning all about Rita's likes and dislikes and trying to get her to fall for him. But no matter how far he gets the night before, every morning she thinks he's a jerk again. Finally, he gives up, gets depressed, and decides the only way out of this nightmare is to kill himself. He drives his truck off a cliff, jumps off a building, gets in a bath and drops a plugged-in toaster in the water, etc. But every morning he wakes up in bed again, not a scratch on him. Finally, he gives up and starts being his honest self. And when he does, Rita responds to it. One day he hangs out with her all day, and he tells her what's going on. He's stuck in Groundhog Day, and there's nothing he can do about it. But she responds with something that reframes his situation for him. She says, "Sometimes I wish I had 1,000 lifetimes." All of us watching have felt some sympathy for Phil. What a terrible torture to be stuck reliving the same day over and over and over. But Rita was right. Haven't we all wished we had more time? Aren't there things you would do if you had an unlimited amount of time? Things you would learn? Things you would try to experience? Her reframe changes his attitude completely. He decides to bloom where he is planted. He decides to accept his situation and make the best of it. He decides to fulfill himself and be happy. And he does. He learns to do ice sculpting and to play the piano. Things that take time. Things he'd always wanted to do but never had the time because he was too busy trying to win fame and fortune. Now he has all the time he would ever need. And Phil starts finding people in need and helping them just because he likes doing it. He becomes a happy, fulfilled, satisfied man. And then, of course, Rita falls in love with him, and he wakes up and it is finally the day after Groundhog Day. The movie is a good demonstration of how dramatically life can change with a new perspective. All his objective circumstances were the same as they were when he was trying to kill himself. When he saw his situation as a trap, as a sentence, he was miserable. But when he saw the opportunity in the circumstances, when he chose to make the best of things as they were, he transformed, and he was happier. Everyone he came into contact with was happier too. How can this apply to you? Watch the movie and think about what you have in your life that you think of as a trap. What unchanging circumstance do you have that you resist or hate? Now ask yourself, what might be good about this? How might I take advantage of this? How could I thrive and fulfill myself right where I am? Honestly pondering those questions can help generate a reframe that shifts your attitude, improves your mood, and opens the possibility of surprising new opportunities for joy. The end. This has been an excerpt from the book, How to Change the Way You Look at Things in Plain English. This is Adam Lee Kahn on The Atom Bomb. This Atom Bomb podcast episode is sponsored by Anchor, a podcast platform, the one I'm using to make this podcast. It's super easy to use and allows you to easily create your own podcast. You can record and edit your audio right onto the app. In fact, you can do everything on your phone. Anchor also makes it easy to monetize your podcast and get wide distribution. Anchor automatically makes your podcast available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. You can download the Anchor app for free or go to anchor.fm to get started.